Welcome back at it, and welcome back at it again. This Q&A about my trip to South America. Patron Juan asks, Dear Stefan, I have a question about your journey in Venezuela. Was it safe to travel alone there? How did they look against tourists? I mean, not a lot of tourists from the Western world nowadays come to Venezuela. Greets from Juan. And also, have you visited Venezuela? If yes, please give a common view of your experience. So, I went to Venezuela. It was the last country that I visited in South America. I had intentions on doing it before when I was in Colombia around October, November, but I wasn't too sure. My Spanish wasn't that great yet. So I postponed it. Eventually, my trip went faster than anticipated, or I just had more time. So I went back to Colombia and then decided, hey, I'm gonna go to Venezuela, and from there I fly to Madrid. How I experienced Venezuela, I was there before the recent elections, that it was actually very safe. In Caracas, I felt the most safe of all capitals that I've visited in South America. That does say a lot. Now, from what I've heard is that they basically kicked out the criminals out of the country. I mean, that's one way to solve crime. But the people were really friendly, really nice. So I had only a week, or actually 6 days. So most of my days I spent in Caracas, and I went for a couple of days to a colonial town called Colonia Tovar, which has a German heritage. And it was very interesting. Now, Colonia Tovar was only like, I don't know, like 30-40 kilometers miles from Caracas, so not that far. But in order to get there, you had to go to the furthest metro station of Caracas, go on a bus from there, then switch buses in order to get to Colonia. When smartphones came on the market around 2010, the travel community exploded because it was so easy to travel with your phone in hand. But because of the troubles in Venezuela, that never happened in that country. So that was so fascinating. I would love to see more, but it was also quite an expensive country because they use the US dollar unofficially, and the prices are very high. So I would advise to bring in cash US dollars if you're planning to travel to Venezuela. And I heard the farther you move from the capital, the police can become scammy, bribery, if you know what I'm saying. I'm not an expert on traveling in Venezuela since I only visited the capital and a town close to the capital, but it was an amazing experience. Jeffy asks, you mentioned that you visited every country in South America except Ecuador. Why did you not go there? Because at that time there were a lot of troubles in Ecuador relating to the drug wars going on over there, and I met travelers that had been in Ecuador, and they said that Quito was very dodgy, and I didn't have much travel experience in South America yet, so that's why I didn't go there. Now, some people ask me what my favorite country was, which country I enjoy the most. Number one is definitely, hands down, Colombia, because there's so much different things to do. You can enjoy city life, you can go party if you like, you can dance salsa in Cali, you can go to a desert, you can go to cute colonial towns, you can go to the coast, to the beaches, you can see old colonial architecture, you can even go to the Amazon, and there's much more. So because Colombia is so diverse, that's why I say it's hands down the best country to travel to in South America. The ones I did not like were Guyana, I get back to that later, and Uruguay. Uruguay because I thought it was quite boring. There was not that much to do, but I'm very happy that I went there anyway. What certain aspects of Latin American life and culture across the various countries stuck out to you the most as a Dutchman? Everything is possible, but nothing is certain. And that's what I really enjoyed. The people in general are very friendly and they look very happy. Not sure if they actually are, because a lot of these countries are plagued by economic and political upheaval, just like some kind of energy that I really appreciated. It's kind of hard to describe. How many times did you get shot during your trip, and what was your favorite video that you filmed during this trip? I didn't get shot, luckily. I wasn't fired upon either. I never got robbed or mugged. I get back to the safety issue later, because also people wanted to know about that. My favorite video I filmed thus far was a video about La Violencia. I thought it was a very interesting story. I didn't really want to cover it because it required me to do a lot of research, and I knew not that many people would watch it because, you know, my World War II content is more popular. But I'm still very happy that I filmed it, and Nicolas helped me with the filming in downtown Bogota on a very historic place, and that's why I really appreciate it. Jokey Heinz, a loyal subscriber, of all the stories you shared on your trip, which story is your favorite? Then I would say which is my favorite place, and that would be Easter Island. That was such a special place to visit. It felt so magical because of the statues, because it's so well known to the general public, but also so mysterious. Were there any place that impacted you on an emotional level? I would say it's more the fact that the great disparity or the chasm between the rich and the poor, and I really remember when I saw it in Peru. I was in Lima. There's neighborhoods like Miraflores that look like Barcelona, but then if you take a cab and you travel all the way to Callao, there's neighborhoods there that look like Africa. Which country turned out way better than you expected? That was Paraguay. I had no expectations of Paraguay. I never hear anything about Paraguay in the media. What's going on in Paraguay? And only because of that, I wanted to travel there. And what I found was a country that was not that touristy. There's not that much touristy things to do, but the Paraguay has a unique culture. They have two official languages, Spanish and the indigenous Guarani language. So that's why I really appreciated Paraguay. Rafael asked me, what monument or building was the most impressive in South America in your opinion? And what was the ugliest? What country has the largest regional differences in your opinion in culture, nature and people? My favorite building is the building you took me to, because Rafael, he guided me around in Rio de Janeiro and we went to this building. It was absolutely amazing. He managed us to get in. We enjoyed the view. I took cool recordings. He helped me with that. So thank you so much for that. I love the architecture. From what I understood, it's kind of some fascist inspired architecture. Now, how much I hate fascism, I do appreciate its architecture in a certain sense. The ugliest building, oh boy, because I've seen a lot. And that is because of many old buildings and historic buildings have been demolished in the 1950s and 60s. I mean, sure, it was bad in Europe. I mean, we also had World War II, but also it was bad over there. So I saw a lot of these buildings in total disrepair, and you know, it is what it is. So instead of expecting something great, I was like surprised every time I saw a beautiful building. And I really like, for example, in Bogota, there is a neighborhood called Quinta Camacho. And I'm not sure how old these buildings are, because I don't think these are older than maybe 20, 30 years. But the style is absolutely magnificent because they use this like old English European style. So it was really great. The country with the largest regional differences, I would say, although I haven't seen that much of the country because I was only in Santa Cruz de la Sierra and close by, was Bolivia. La Paz and Sucre are high up in the mountains, and Santa Cruz is more like more tropical climate over there. Bolivia also political. It's a very divided country. Which country has the most interesting history? Hands down, Brazil. Brazil has so much. You have like the colonization, slavery, even the Dutch took a part of Brazil for a couple of decades, so that's interesting. Wars of independence, the Empire of Brazil. Also, Brazil participated in the Second World War by sending troops over there, and they also had a dictatorship later in the 60s and 70s, so that makes Brazil the country with the most interesting history. He guided me around in Sao Paulo. Thank you so much. It was great meeting you. Which country had the best food? Peru. Which country had the most friendly people? Brazil. Which country had the highest and lowest living standard? That's a difficult one because of the fact that in many countries the chasm between rich and poor is huge. I always went to the best neighborhoods and there's a high standard of living over there. But then there's also a lot of bad neighborhoods. In general, I would say the richest country that I visited was Uruguay, And also Chile in general looked very good. Also Argentina, despite the fact that their economy isn't doing well at the moment. And the lowest standard of living, I would say the Guyanas, so Suriname and Guyana. Was there something that you believe you should do if you ever return to South America? Visit Ecuador. I also wanted to visit Colombia once again, and maybe Brazil. What were the most nonchalant greetings in those countries? Were they different in rural versus urban? I'm sure there's differences in greetings, rural versus urban. I do speak Spanish, but not that good, so I can't really tell. Most of the time people say, hello, how are you? ¿Cómo estás? Did you taste Brazilian culinary? What was the best food from it? I really love those self-service restaurants in Brazil. They only have them in Brazil, and I love it. So you pick your plate, there's a whole buffet, you throw on all the food you want, and at the end you weigh it, and that's the price you pay. You can eat a lot, you can eat not so much. You can eat very healthy if you want. So that's what I really liked. And I just love the black beans from Rio de Janeiro. And also the restaurant that Rafael took me to was great. I believe it was the oldest restaurant in Rio de Janeiro, and I really loved this dish. Did you try any coffee from the places you visited? Which one is the best? I'm a big coffee drinker. I love the Colombian coffee as well as the barista culture they have over there. They have Juan Valdez, which is awesome. Then there's also a lot of these small coffee places, and they all serve good coffee. Now, I did got my hands on Brazilian coffee, which I enjoyed, although Brazil doesn't really have that barista culture. So a lot of times when I ordered coffee, the coffee that I ordered and got in Brazil wasn't that great. And the coffee from Venezuela, really good. Which places did you visit in Brazil, and which one did you like the most? So I visited Sao Paulo, Paraty, Rio de Janeiro, Recife, Pipa, Natal, Fortaleza, and Manaus. The ones I like the best, hands down, Rio de Janeiro. There's so much stuff to do in and around the city. I thought it was only like beaches and parties, but there's so much more. There's nature, there's history. I even went to a fort, so that one was hands down the best place to visit. And Manaus was awesome too. Will you do a similar series on the Caribbean islands during World War II? So I did make a video about the Dutch Antilles during World War II, but I have no plans traveling to the Caribbean islands anytime soon. Despite South America gaining their independence very early on, why has none of their nation reached a height comparable to US or even Canada, Australia, and New Zealand? Could it due to the result of Spanish colonization versus British colonization? I would say that during the Spanish colonization, there was such a huge divide between the haves and the have-nots, and that plagues these countries till today. There's a very good book that I read, Open Veins, but it's very accusing. I think it's a Marxist book. But it's a very interesting read nonetheless, and a hard to answer question. Good question. If anyone has any thoughts, leave them down below. Since French Guiana is part of France, does that mean that France is in South America? When you count the countries in South America, do you include or exclude French Guiana? I exclude French Guiana. I didn't go there. It's not an independent country. It's part of France. That does mean that France, and thus the European Union, is inside South America. You can use the euro there. I even understood that people that went there, they had data there because their SIM card covers the whole of Europe. So that's interesting. I didn't go there. It was already a hassle to get to Guyana, and I heard it was even worse to get from Suriname to French Guiana, so that's why I did not go there. Gustavo once else, also one more. What do you think about the relations of the South American countries with their populace? Colombia with Gaitán, Brazil with Vargas, Chile with Ibáñez, Paraguay with Rafael Franco, Argentina with Perón. A huge question, hard to answer, but if I can sum it up concise, I'm actually quite surprised that a lot of South Americans don't know that much about their history. I met a lot of Brazilians who had no idea who Vargas was, but interesting enough, every Brazilian that I met, they know that the Dutch held a part of Brazil for just a couple of decades. That's interesting. Gaitán was known by all the Colombians that I met. I did talk about Perón a bit with some Argentinians, but I didn't speak to that many. And the same goes for the Chileans. And Paraguay, very interesting. I can talk very long about it, but you'll have to see my video when it comes out. When will the video about Brazil World War II come out? I understand you're waiting for this one. It will come out. But the thing is this, it's gonna be a big episode. It's gonna be a huge episode. I spoke to Brazilian World War II veterans. It is so amazing. So it's gonna take a lot of work. So like we say in Dutch, het duurt even, maar dan heb je ook wat. Albert Arthur, thank you for posting so many wonderful videos. Thank you as well. And your question, which Latin American country that you visited had the strongest World War I or II legacy in your opinion? World War I cannot say. World War II, definitely Brazil, because they actually sent troops over there. Did you see any fellow countrymen from your home country? Yeah, the Dutch are everywhere, but the French and the Germans, they're even more everywhere. Thiago, longtime subscriber. Too bad we didn't meet, but it is what it is. Thank you for visiting my continent and producing top level content for free on YouTube. I truly appreciate. My question is, overall, what is your opinion about security violence in the continent? Which was the least safe country you visited, or did you have any bad experience regarding security? And Tony asks, have you felt unsafe somewhere? So the safety issue is a very interesting one, because overall, you can say that South America is dangerous. And for us Europeans, we're not used to that. And when we think of danger, we obviously think of something external we cannot control. In reality, you are in control very much, but just following 3 simple rules. Rule number 1, do not wear any jewelry or watches. Rule number 2, keep your phone in your pocket. And if you want to take a photo, look around, take the photo and put your phone in your pocket again. 3, do not walk at night, take a cab, and definitely don't go to places you have no business going to. By just following these rules, you'll be fine. Nothing bad happened to me. The least safe I felt was in Georgetown, Guyana. That was not a nice place to be. The vibe on the streets, I mean, you feel it. It's hard to describe, but the vibe on the streets was just not nice. It felt so weird, and I remember I arrived there pretty late. It was still light. I hadn't eaten anything. I couldn't go to an ATM because my card didn't work. I didn't want to venture too far from my hotel. Eventually, I ended up eating in some other hotel. Prices were ridiculously high. Georgetown, I would definitely not return there. Did you visit Pablo Escobar's grave? I did. I went on the Pablo Escobar tour in Medellin. We went to the neighborhood he built. We went to the place he was shot. We went to his grave and also to a memorial park. It was very, very interesting. That was it. Thank you so much for watching. See you later.